Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. And I tell you what, it's a packed show this morning. Even though it's an international break, we've got big updates on Luke Shaw. Apparently he's not going to be back after the international break, which is another big blow for Ten Hag. If he can't get his best team out, how can he get the best results? As the pressure piles on, Fabrizio Romano has given an insider bit of information as to what's going on with Manchester United and Erik Ten Hag, as more and more ex-players, pundits and experts start saying he's got 2 games to save his career. The pressure's piling on. We'll talk about that. Also, what's going on with Casemiro and this transfer story? We'll give you the truth around that because there's a lot of people talking about a Casemiro transfer this morning. I get why they're doing it. We'll talk about that, but obviously it's nonsense. And a little bit of a shock for you as well. I actually agree with Graham Souness and what he said about Kobbie Mainoo and he shouldn't be starting every game. I think, look, it's the international break. We've done many of these over the last 10 years. Some people, some outlets panic and feel that they need to, over-egg the pudding to try and get people reading their articles or watching their content. And the bottom line is, Graham Souness has said a lot of shit about Man United, but what he said about Kobbie Mainoo is absolutely spot on. And in that world of extremity, whether you are Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out, can you be in between? Of course you can. Graham Souness comes out with a lot of crap about Man United, but on this occasion, he's actually talking sense. So I don't know why he's being misquoted and called out, but we'll talk about that in a moment as well. I always want to call out Peter Schmeichel. What a load of crap. Did you hear what he said? It's so sad that Sir Alex Ferguson has to sit and watch that on Sunday, like it's the first time we've had our pants pulled down by Liverpool at Old Trafford. And I think that melodramatic nonsense is a joke. Michael Owen's been at it again as well. We'll talk about that. Lots to get into, but let's hit into the news. I know specifically people will be tuning in to know what's going on with Luke Shaw. First of all, I've got to give a shout out to UTD Menace on X, who has been very, very good around Man United injuries over the last 12 months. I did something yesterday about how the expectation is that Luke Shaw will be back for the Southampton game, and Rasmus is very, very close. We know that. But pretty much straight away, the feedback out was that that is not the case. That is not the feedback from United's medical staff, that Luke Shaw will be back for Southampton. We don't know how long after Southampton it's predicted he's going to be out, but certainly the expectation that he'll be back starting a week on Saturday for Manchester United has been met with quite a blank no. At the moment. Now, miracles can happen. I wouldn't say miracles happen with Luke Shaw and his fitness, so maybe we should be taking this as a major setback. Whether it's a major setback, whether it's part of the initial plan or not, I think Manchester United Football Club have protected Luke Shaw really well since this injury, and probably because they have to. The bottom line is he's not played since February. The bottom line is he got himself fit to go and play in the Euros for England. He prioritised England over Manchester United at major risk to his reputation as a Man United player. He didn't even play a game until the final. I think it's very, very obvious that the risk factor of going to England in the summer was ridiculous. I think everybody from Sir Jim Radcliffe down needs to be looking at that, because any Man United fan would have told you, as they did in late May, a lot of you said, why is he doing this? I wasn't one of those. I've got to admit, I was like, look, you've got to trust the science. If they're saying he's fit, he's fit. But it became very, very clear very quickly that he wasn't fit. My assumption was that he just missed out on the FA Cup final. He hadn't just missed out on the FA Cup final. He wasn't training for 3 or 4 weeks with England after that. So he never should have gone. Man United have got a role to play in that. He gets back fit for the final, and then he's not fit for the start of the season for Man United. It comes out that it's a bit of a setback, but the expectation is he'll be back after the international break. And I think a lot of us thought, well, international break is Southampton. Back after the international break doesn't mean Southampton by the sounds of it. It means back after the international break. Which international break? Well, there's one in October and there's one in November. I don't think that's what they mean. I think they expect him back at some point between Southampton a week on Saturday and Aston Villa in a month. I think that is where they're expecting him back, which means he could miss the first 2 months of the season. I've already got my charity bet that he'll get injured again before Christmas as well. So yeah, it's a problematic, and it feeds into it feeds into two things, doesn't it? One, why didn't we buy a left back? And again, you know, sometimes this is why I always say don't beat yourself up and put yourself down when it comes to opinion. I mean, I'm sure you don't. You probably pick up a newspaper or go online multiple times a day, listen to so-called experts and go, I know more than them. And you do. But many of you said Luke Shaw should not have gone to England. He shouldn't, and he would be fit for us now. That is, nobody can tell me I'm wrong, but categorically you're telling me if Luke Shaw, who'd nearly recovered from his injury at the end of last season, had had a holiday and a proper pre-season, he wouldn't have been fit for the start of the season. He might be injured now, but he would have been ready for the start of the season. Many of you said he shouldn't have gone to England. You were right. And many of you said we should have bought a left back, and you were right. Liverpool destroyed us on Sunday. Absolutely destroyed us. But they absolutely destroyed us down our left-hand side as well. Mo Salah got 2 assists and a goal. The Diaz goal came obviously from the cross on that side. Mo Salah's, the third goal, that was obviously Mo Salah scoring. So they got in down our left-hand side more than they got in down the right. And we've left ourselves exposed in that position. And yes, there's a lot of positive things going on, but this is totally preventable. And it's an embarrassment for United. And they have done a very good job of keeping this quiet. And the media, probably because he's a British player, have kept it quiet as well. But this is a huge, huge issue for Manchester United now. And every game we play, everywhere we go, the opposition know we're weak down the left-hand side. Rashford doesn't track back. I think that's tactical from Ten Hag. And you've got a stand-in left-back. I mean, hold on a minute. I'm the manager of Southampton. I'm the manager of Crystal Palace. I'm the manager of Spurs. I'm the manager of Villa. I know the left winger's not tracking back, and I know the left-back's not very good. We are right back. Matty Cash for Villa, Pedro Porro for Spurs, whoever it is for Crystal Palace and Southampton, right back, get forward. Get forward, overload Dalot, because he's not a left back, and the right winger, get at him. Overlaps the lot, swamp them, because that's where their weakness is. And we're going into more games after the international break in the same situation. I think a fit Luke Shaw doesn't need Marcus Rashford to track back much, because he has an amazing engine and he's an amazing left back. But the fact that we're now looking at this and he's not going to be back fit for Southampton. I mean, look, miracles could happen, but the feedback when I said that yesterday straight away was that with Luke Shaw, it's been laughed at that he will be back for Southampton. That worries me. That worries me that the handbrake has been put onto that story straight away. That Rasmus will be back, Luke Shaw's expected back. And instantly it's come out that Luke Shaw will not be back for that Southampton game and is not expected to be back. So again, I think from United, that's just a very quick step to, manage expectations. But it's a big concern. Of course it is. Massive concern for Manchester United. Jared says, for the first time, United stand isn't talking about Sancho. I don't think we've spoken about Jadon Sancho hardly ever over the summer, and certainly in the last few days. Big players are letting us down. That's the problem, says Jordan. I think people seem to forget that it's only our third game. The new players need to get gel in and give it time, people, says Jordan. Well, we'll talk about what Fabrizio said about Ten Hag in a few minutes' time, but he did say that one of the key impact factors for Ineos is to assess Erik Ten Hag when he's got all his new signings available. Yoro's injured, Agate's not here yet, Rasmus has been injured, Mount is injured, Luke Shaw is injured. The problem is, from Erik Ten Hag's point of view, you've just lost 2 of your first 3 games. You come back after the international break. You don't know whether you've picked up any more injuries. We've got a lot of players travelling all around the world playing 2 games early in the season, so we could pick up other injuries. On top of that, when you come back, he's not going to have Mason Mount back. He's not going to have Lenny Yoro back. And he's not going to have Luke Shaw back. So realistically, Rasmus probably won't start either. So nobody's back. And Agate is his new signing that has all the pressure. So it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. I think it's difficult for any football team to not play with a proper right back and a proper left back anyway. We're talking about high-end Premier League football. Most teams, I mean, you look at somebody like Fulham when they came to Old Trafford, their right winger is Adama Traore. He's a good winger. Most teams have good front threes, whether they are Fulham, Crystal Palace, or Ipswich. They're capable of doing things in a balanced way, and it's very disappointing. But somebody said it last week. I think the way the club and the media have protected this injury is quite not surprising, but quite. I don't know what the word is actually, but they have. This has not been allowed to turn into a shitstorm. This has not been a pile-on as to why. And you know why I think it is? I think it's to protect Luke Shaw, but I think it's also to protect the club, because I think they know they're as culpable as Luke Shaw is, because he never should have gone to England, and Man United could have stopped that. You can stop it. Sir Alex Ferguson used to stop Ryan Giggs playing for Wales all the time. But the players got to be on board with that. Ryan Giggs would prioritise Man United over an international break with Wales. And other Man United players would do it. But obviously, I don't think you're ever going to get, certainly the England players, to prioritise Man United over England, because I think they enjoy playing for England more than Man United. And I think that's the problem. And that's, the overarching issue here is that most Man United fans called this before it even happened. And we have got a bit of a curse around injuries. I actually saw we'll talk about him a little bit later. Michael Owen was talking about Ten Hag needs to be sacked because he's got a new coaching setup around him. He's got a new medical staff around him, and still the results haven't changed. I mean, it's baffling, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But I actually saw an article yesterday about Rasmus Højlund, who's been working really hard to get back fit for United. He's been working with Clegg and Billingsley or something like that, Man United's fitness and conditioning coaches. Quick search on them. They've both been here for at least 6 years. We haven't changed our fitness conditioning team at all. Michael Clegg's still here. He's been here for years, and this other guy's been here for 6 years as well. So I don't know what we're talking about. Well, my read says that Michael Owen's spitting facts. Well, he's clearly not, mate. I've just exposed it in about 10 seconds. We haven't changed our medical staff at all. We've got 2 fitness coaches working with Rasmus Højlund to get him fit, who've been here for 6 years each. We've still got the same people working on fitness and conditioning. So, this is what I mean about proper journalism. I'm not a journalist. You're not a journalist. We're a fan community that has honest, open conversations and is not afraid to say what needs to be said, whether it's right or wrong. But we haven't changed our medical staff. Like, it's a fact. There was a story yesterday about 2 fitness coaches working with Rasmus Højlund who've been here for at least 6 years each. We haven't changed it. We got the Arsenal doctor, yeah, but we haven't massively changed the whole lot. We've still got the same people. If I get a new restaurant owner, but I keep the same chefs, they're still the same fucking chefs. Still putting the same ingredients in. So, keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on how many injuries we're still getting over the next few weeks. Anyway, is there any left-back free agents out there, says Toby? Look, let's talk about this. Ten Hag is stubborn and will dig his own grave, says Shane Matthews. Medical staff need looking into. Too many injuries, says Jordan. Trader says Ten Hag in, although I'm very sad. He knew that the Liverpool game meant to us. He should stay, but pattern up, says that. Trader, thank you very much for your comments this morning. Just on, we can come back to this Luke Shaw conversation, of course we can. Mason Mount's going to be out for a long time as well. Yoro, obviously, is a long-term one. Mainu is not Mainu, I always say Mainu. Malacia is a long-term one as well. Rasmus, hopefully, will be back soon, and Luke Shaw now is looking a little bit more longer-term than we thought. Freedom Journey says, what about Malacia? Just talking about, Simon Heron says Jose was spot on about Luke Shaw. I like Luke Shaw. I like Luke Shaw, the player, I do, but I don't need to live in an extremity. I can slate Luke Shaw's injury record and his decision to go for England. I mean, I don't think even Luke Shaw would understand this. I like Luke Shaw. I think he's one of the best left backs in Europe. I think he's a brilliant left-sided centre back. And I think when he's fit, he's absolutely essential to Manchester United. So I like Luke Shaw. I wish he was fit. We really, really miss him. I think he's a very, very good player. But I'm absolutely furious with him for this injury. And that's what I said yesterday, isn't it? Some people can't understand that. How can you be slagging him off or critical of him, but also really like him? Because that's life. That's life. We really miss him. He's a really good player, but I'm fuming with him for what he did going for England. I think it's bang out of order. But that doesn't make me dislike Luke Shaw. We need him. He's a good player, but I'm fuming about it. But we live in a society, we live in a world now, but where you're almost, people don't understand that you can be like that. I grew up in a world where you could be. You know, you could buy an Oasis album, like 8 songs and hate 3, and say it's a good album. It's almost like, you know, when you people don't understand when people go and watch a film now and say it's not great, it wasn't terrible, it was okay. People can't deal with that because they want the extremity of opinion. We massively miss Luke Shaw, in my opinion. We don't need to buy a new left back. We need Luke Shaw, but he's not fit because he fucked off to England and prioritised that. A huge risk to the football club, and it's damaged us. I don't think we would have lost to Brighton with Luke Shaw. We wouldn't have lost to Brighton with Luke Shaw because he would have been on that back post, covering that back post at the end. So we wouldn't have lost to Brighton. I think we still would have lost to Liverpool, but we wouldn't have lost to Brighton. So, you know, I can pinpoint where we'd be better. But we could play Fernandes instead of selling, says Sturton. Thank you very much. Let me just talk to you about this Casemiro story, because we've got lots to get into this morning. I really want to talk about what Graham Souness said about Mainu as well, if we've got time. So, look, I get it. It's the international break. A lot of newspaper editors, journalists panic. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? The transfer window's closed. We can't write some shitty article about Man United trying to buy Tony. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? The Ten Hag out stuff is dying down because people are starting to calm down a little bit. Oh, what are we going to do? Let's talk about Casemiro to Turkey, even though it's complete and utter shit. Yeah, let's do that. I knew about this last night. You told me about it last night. I did one quick check and knew it was bollocks. I followed it up just to make sure it's bollocks, and it is. But I'm waking up this morning, there's newspaper articles, there's other content creators, there's people on social media. They're just, you know, Casemiro to Turkey, you know, just to try and create content. It's sad. It's sad when we have, look, we get a lot of criticism. I'm fine with that. You know, people are going to talk. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. But I'm not going to sit here and insult your intelligence and say, just because it's the Wednesday of the international break, Casemiro could go to Turkey. I mean, we don't need to do that. We don't. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. You know, I've got loads of stuff stacked up that I think we want to talk about. I really want to get into the Onana debate. But the Casemiro story is this. Perfectly from a source within the club, Man United are not actively looking to get rid of Casemiro. The transfer window is closed. There is no indication that any club from Turkey could afford Casemiro's wages. He's on £350,000 a week, and Manchester United have got zero appetite to supplement Casemiro's wages so he can go to Turkey and leave Man United short in the midfield. And that's the only statement that matters. We can't replace Casemiro. And Galatasaray or Fenerbahce or any other club cannot afford Casemiro's wages. And Galatasaray have just taken Victor Osimhen, who is on good wages as well. So this story came from Turkey. And like Italy and Portugal, there is a lot of crap that comes out from Turkey at times and football stories, as we've already seen this summer transfer window. So it's complete and utter nonsense, and it's been grabbed by people in this country or in the Man United fandom world to create a bit of content. And I'd rather not be talking about it, but I've had so many people messaging me about it because so many other people are trying to use it as a story. It's not possible. And also, what other people are doing is it's almost like we've moved into an area of let's completely make up stories because we haven't got anything else to talk about. Because I'm now hearing people going, Casemiro goes to Galatasaray and then we bring Rabiot in. We're not talking to Rabiot. It was literally updated last week that Man United and Rabiot never instigated conversations at all because Man United just didn't feel he was part of their plan anymore and was also too expensive. But you've got people going, Casemiro goes on loan to Galatasaray and we bring Rabiot in. Rabiot wants 250k a week and a contract. So United, to get Casemiro out, would probably have to give Galatasaray at least 200 grand a week. Then you're going to bring Rabiot in on a contract on 250k a week. So you go from Casemiro on 350k a week to 450k a week to bring Rabiot in and pay half of Casemiro's wages. It's complete and utter nonsense. Look, it would be a cracking story if it was true. And I'm more than happy to talk about it if it's true. But we've ended up talking about it to explain why it's complete and utter nonsense. But people don't want to do that sort of stuff. And you know what? We get criticised as a community a lot. And we're used to it. Because people take it out of context. They turn it into this. They turn it into that. And sometimes we actually do talk about something that's a load of shit. But in this case, everybody who's running this story, don't ever tell us that we're the worst thing about this fan base, because there won't be many people who've just broken it down like that and actually made a couple of messages to people who will tell the truth. Galatasaray cannot afford Casemiro's wages. We'd have to pay half of them. If we let him go, we're short in the midfield, and we can't replace him with Rabiot because we don't want to, and that would be actually more expensive as a package to loan Casemiro out, pay half his wages, and then bring Rabiot in. But you know, don't let it ruin, a page filler in the international break. Casemiro was absolutely abysmal against Liverpool, quite comfortably the worst I've ever seen him play in a Man United shirt, and I presume it's probably one of the worst performances of his whole career, to be honest, because he was brilliant at Real Madrid, and he was bad at the end of last season. So to say that was his worst ever performance, he got hooked at half time. That's the biggest thing. But he didn't leave in the summer. Nobody wanted him in the summer, and we can't afford to let him go. We could end up with one of the most expensive bench players in our history, although I think Alexis Sanchez probably still has that, to be fair, because we paid him 400 grand a week. But he's not going anywhere until at least January, because we can't leave ourselves short in the midfield. It's the same reason why we kept Christian Eriksen. There was good offers that came in for Christian Eriksen on transfer deadline day, but we said no because we would just be left short in the midfield. Luke Shaw's favourite matchday activity seems to be checking out the game from the sidelines, says Alpha. Edward V is a legend. He's gifted another 5 memberships. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate that. I'm just going to bring this in now. Solid Blake says Casemiro was subbed off at half-time and that was too late. Mate, I thought there was a point in that game. There definitely was a point in that game where I thought he was going to get subbed off before half-time, which probably should have happened. But, how embarrassing that would be. Summer says Casemiro didn't even apologise after the Liverpool game, but look at Rice. He took the blame for the red card. No, he didn't, did he? We just got pictures of his trophy cabinet, which I don't think that's a good look. But look, I think sometimes we're a little bit unrealistic about the truth of Manchester United's big problem. You've got people saying sack the manager, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. We forget that we still have a lot of toxic elements in that football club. And toxic doesn't mean that they're, horrible people. It's just toxic behaviours. Luke Shaw's decision to go and play for England was toxic for Manchester United. It was a massive risk and it backfired, and therefore it's poisonous to Manchester United. So that desire to risk your Man United career to put England first was toxic. It's true. Casemiro playing like that for Man United against Liverpool and then pictures of his trophy cabinet from Real Madrid coming out is toxic. It displays a complete and utter lack of awareness of what Manchester United is all about. But there are still players at Man United that need clearing out. That's not a surprise to me. So it does make me laugh a little bit when I see people sort of criticising players for things that we're already aware of. Like, not one player's come out and apologised for Liverpool at the weekend. Is that not scary about where we are as a football club now? Because I think if a player came out and apologised, people would say we've had enough of the apologies, but nobody's come out and apologised. It's straight on the international break. Here I am in my England kit. Here I am in my Portugal kit. Nobody's apologised at all. Nobody's come out and said it's unacceptable. Nobody has said a thing. I don't know whether that's a conscious thing from Ineos to say don't do it because it's hollow, but nobody's bothered to do it. I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but let's not pretend that the mentality in that football club has suddenly changed overnight. I could see it on the pitch on Sunday. As soon as it went 1-0 down, you could see some of the players hiding again. That football club still has a lot of work to do. So David Brailsford talks about, strategic reviews and elite mentality and consistency, and we're not there yet. We're not there that at all. Look, honestly, we threw Brighton away and we never really turned up against Liverpool. So there is no change in the mentality of those players. And that will always come back to Erik ten Hag. But in a way, I think that's a little bit unfair. Erik ten Hag inherited a lot of these problems, and these players have not been removed from the football club. They're either not good enough or they don't have the mentality. They're not going to change that because Sir David Brailsford says you need to. It will take a little bit more time. Dragon Egg, welcome to the members club. Thank you very much. Tyrus, thank you very much for gifting a membership. And Space says it's a dream to play for United for B-level players. Play 2 matches per year and get paid at home the rest of the year. So Space, thank you very much for that. Alan Cullinger has just gifted a membership as well. I wanted to just talk about what Fabrizio has had to say about Erik ten Hag. You're going to love what I've got to say about Mainu, by the way, and what Graham Souness has said. But we've had a bit of an overreaction, I think. Of course, we have had a bit of an overreaction since Man United Liverpool. Some of it's completely understandable. When you lose to Liverpool, they're our biggest rival, etc. This is what Fabrizio's had to say. Man United have taken a very strong position since the loss to Liverpool and even before it. The leadership team has made it very clear publicly and privately that Erik ten Hag is their manager and that they will not panic, and that he maintains the strong support within the football club to be part of the project that they've decided to build when they gave him new contract in the summer and they invested in that project. So the stance remains from the top is that Manchester United are behind Erik ten Hag despite losing 2 of the first 3 games. And Fabrizio goes on to say that the new signings impact is absolutely essential. And what he meant by that and what he expanded on was that Manchester United have brought in people like Yoro, who were to start for Man United from the very, very start and to be involved from the start. He's injured. Agate is a key signing. He hasn't played a game yet. So yes, there's no panic. Yes, there's full support for Erik ten Hag. But I think that what we can... I mean, I don't want to say it because I said it last night and it just puts pressure. But Erik ten Hag is going to be properly judged when he's got the majority of his new signings available. Now, Mazraoui and De Ligt at this moment in time are available. Agate will be back after the international break. Xerxes is available, and obviously, hopefully, Yoro will be back soon. But I think with Rasmus back as well, this is the next month is going to be the time where he gets the most scrutiny, because unless we have another absolutely ridiculous run of injuries, it will be over the next month that he gets the most scrutiny. And I think that's right. I think there has been overreaction since Liverpool, but I understand it. You know, I will never make an apology for overreacting in a match reaction on the United stand. I mean, it's literally 90 seconds after the end of the game. And if you don't care, then if you're not angry and you're not moaning, then you're not a real fan, are you? You know, we all overreact, and we all 24 hours tend to feel a little bit later, a little bit better or different later. But yeah, I think Romano's update is obviously going to be, you know, absolutely nailed on. We know that Ornstein and Romano have been very well tapped into Manchester United for the last 6 months, and I think the Ten Hag out movement won't go anywhere, but I think it will have to get real, as I said yesterday, in the sense that you may well get what you want, but you might have to be patient for it, because we're certainly not going to get a shocking sacking during the next few days. And I think even if we get a bad result against Southampton, he would still stay in a job for a few more games as well. As I said, I think for me, the minute he hits sort of 4 or 5 losses before the end of October, he'll be in trouble, because you can predict that you're going to have 6, 7, 8 losses before Christmas, and then you've got to make a decision. So I think the next 4 games are going to be key. Manchester is blue, says Alan. Okay, thank you very much for that. Manchester's actually a city, by the way. I mean, I don't know why we're talking about the colour of it. I've never reacted. I've never overreacted. I want this guy out of the club. His tactics and game management are rubbish, says D. And this is why your club's done, says Samuel. And Silas from Stuttgart. You can't get normal players. I never... It's the third game, season isn't over, but Erik ten Hag looks rattled. If we can't play better, he's gone. And the interview with Barada and Ashworth was before the Liverpool game. Wonder how they feel about the situation now, says Keith. Well, that's exactly why I've given you the Fabrizio Romano update, mate, because that was actually today. So that's basically what he's saying. The temperature is cool in Old Trafford at the moment, and they maintain their backing of Erik ten Hag and the project. So that was literally what that update was. From Fabrizio Romano. I don't think Ten Hag in or out is a movement at this point. It's just people who are frustrated, so space oddie, some with patience left and some not. I think that's a very good assessment. I don't think that's actually completely true, but I would like that. Anyway, this might be a little bit controversial. So Graham Souness has been speaking after Man United's loss to Liverpool. And Graham Souness, over the years, has spoken complete and utter biased bullshit about Manchester United that I think even he would admit as an ex-Liverpool player. However, there has been a bit of an overreaction, and we are guilty of this. We all are, as I said a few minutes ago. But you can't just, create a bit of content or create an article slagging off Graham Souness without actually listening. Because the worst point of analysis is to, hear without listening. What Graham Souness said about Kobbie Mainoo was not that he's not good enough to play for Manchester United. But some people have jumped on him saying that. What he actually said, now listen to this, what Graham Souness actually said is, Manchester United have got a rich history of this. They throw players in very, very early. And sometimes you'll have your George Best or, your absolute superstar, your Ryan Giggs. But sometimes you'll have a player that's going to be a player, but gets overplayed and treated as if they're ready already. I remember the class of 92. Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, David Beckham didn't start in the 96 season where we won the double. They'd been playing a little bit here and there for the previous 3 years. And then they were ready. What Graham Souness said is Kobbie Mainoo is not ready and should not be starting every game as Manchester United's midfield answer. And what he was basically saying is he's being used too much when he's not actually ready. Exactly what many of us were saying in the match reaction on Sunday. So tell me how that gets misconstrued by certain United fans and certain media outlets as Souness is slagging off Mainoo saying he's not good enough. I think he's right. I think he is right. And I think we all agree with it. But this is where agenda comes in. Look, a broken clock can be right twice a day. Souness has said a lot of bad things about United. But when somebody actually says something that's absolutely fair, I don't do that. Whether it's Souness, Lineker, Shearer, what he said last week about the offsides, he was spot on. But the way he treated Ten Hag after the FA Cup final was tantamount to football bullying with Lineker. That I'm not saying they're not turbo prats, but they can still come out with stuff that actually makes sense. And I just felt there was an unnecessary pile-on of Souness, and it makes the person piling on look thick, because actually, just because you don't like them doesn't mean that they won't make an opinion that's actually okay. And I thought his opinion was okay. I thought it was an okay opinion. Kobbie Mainoo against Liverpool, when Casemiro went off, suddenly became Man United's 350k a week midfield conductor. He's 19. He's not even been playing for a year. He's in another England squad right now. He was in a Euros in the summer. He is not the finished article, and I don't know why anybody would think he is. He's an amazing talent. He's 19. We didn't do this to Beckham. We didn't do it to Nicky Butt. We didn't do it to Paul Scholes. We don't do this. It takes time for these players to grow. And the worst thing you can do, it's like having a potential heavyweight boxer of the future. You don't throw them in at 19 against Tyson Fury every week. Like, they've got to grow to get to that. It's like having a flower in your garden, isn't it? If it's going to blossom into a beautiful best flower in the garden, don't overwater it. Or don't underwater it and leave it out to dry. You've got to feed it. You've got to nourish it. You've got to know when to put it in the shade, when to give it a bit of water, when to put it in the sun. I think with Kobe Mainoo, Graham Souness is absolutely correct, and most of you said it in the match reaction. He is being overplayed at the moment because we are desperate, because Casemiro is terrible, because Ugarte is not here, because Eriksson doesn't offer anything, and because McTominay has been sold, and Amrabat wasn't brought back. Kobe Mainoo has been overplayed, looks exhausted, is 19, needs nourishing, needs protection, needs games in, out, and needs to be developed. But because of the circumstances around our midfield, numerous circumstances, he now finds himself as the main man in the midfield. And I think that's literally what Graham Souness was saying, is that he has now become the main man, thrown in at the deep end at 19, and it's a mistake for Man United to be doing that out of desperation, because they've got to do it, because it doesn't actually help his development. What he actually said is there's a good player there, and there is a good player there, but he is being overplayed. So I actually thought, you know what, I'm bringing it in. It might be the worst opinion I've ever had, but I actually totally agree with it. And I thought, you know, all these United fans jumping in on Souness again, I thought what he actually said was spot on. We need to protect Mainoo. And I want to see Ugarte, Mainoo and Bruno, but we might not do that after the international break because we've got 3 away games out of 4 in the Premier League. We might lock the midfield down with Casemiro and Ugarte and give Mainoo a bit of a break. We've got to be very, very careful what we do with Kobe Mainoo, because if we overplay him, he won't reach his potential. And at the moment, I think there's too much responsibility and too many minutes in a 19-year-old. And if you can burn Marcus Rashford out and you can burn Anthony Martial out, then you can burn Kobe Mainoo out as well. You know, and we did burn out Martial and Rashford. We did. Like Martial said it himself, I was being overplayed by Solskjaer. You know, I'd have a little bit of a knock and I had to play. And he ended up finished in his mid-20s. Marcus Rashford's been overplayed as well, 100%. So we've got to be very, very careful. We are a football club that develops and brings youth through. But at the moment, I think we are overplaying him, definitely. And he is only 19. Thank you very much, anyway, for those opinions. Let's just have a look at some of yours. Souness is right. Mainoo shouldn't be playing as much as he is, in the same way Garnacho shouldn't be playing as much, but people kick off when they don't play, says I Love UK Garage. I don't think Garnacho's playing enough, though, mate. I think that's flips the other way. I don't think Garnacho's actually playing enough. Garnacho, Mainoo, Ahmad are not complete players and not starters. They're still developing, says Gabba. Mainoo is burnt out, says Mel. Also Garnacho, Bruno, Mainoo and Rashi are all burnt out, says Huts. So Mainoo shouldn't have played for England then, says Alex95. I mean, look, mate, that's very different to Luke Shaw. You're not going to catch me out on that one. Kobe Mainoo's going to want to go and play for England at 19. Of course he is. If I could have had a choice, he wouldn't have gone. From a Man United over England every day of the week. I said that in the summer. It's brilliant that Kobe Mainoo's been called up for England, and it's very, very exciting. But as a Man United fan, I wish he hadn't, because a summer off after his first season. Look at Erling Haaland. Look at Mo Salah. They're revved up, ready to go, because they haven't really played football for 2 months. The advantage of not having a summer tournament is very, very clear. I don't have any problem with him going to the Euros or being in the England squad now, but he is getting burnt out. There's no doubt about that. Mark said, I met Mason in Dublin on Monday. They were there for Coldplay, and he said he said he's hoping to be back for the Southampton game, says Dragon Egg Films. Mason Mount, look, I've got no words on Mason Mount. He's had how many injuries in his first year? I think Mason Mount is in the Cavani camp already. We need him, but I don't trust that he'll stay fit. I mean, he's very, very close to becoming the next Phil Jones, isn't he? He's either been really bad luck, he's either had really bad luck, or we've bought somebody that's just going to be injury prone. And I don't really know what to say other than that, because I think the volume of injuries is just too much. Erik ten Hag's biggest problem is he tries to use a centre midfielder as an all-rounder, which misidentified Casemiro, even Mainoo to a certain extent. He's exposing their weaknesses, says Jay. We got sold a dud by Chelsea on Mount, says Ryan. Why has Mainoo gone to England camp? Give him time to rest. Does not need to join England, says Nigel. Because he's been called up. That's the way it works. You get called up, you go, don't you? Rashford had the summer off, says Richard. I knew someone was going to say that. Yeah, I don't look. Marcus Rashford's not Rashford's not a topic of conversation for me this morning. I don't know. I don't know why he's not revved up and raring to go like Haaland and Salah. He has had a summer off, but Mason Mount had a summer off and he got injured straight away. It doesn't always work out that way, does it? Scholes was always a sub for a couple of seasons before he was one of the first names on the team sheet. Mainu is getting overplayed, says Dominic. Thank you very much. Let me just talk to you, actually, just talking about what people have had to say. I feel I just had to bring this in. You know, like sometimes the overreaction is justified. And sometimes it's just complete and utter nonsense. And I think that we've had a lot of overreaction that I think is justified. But this blew me away. This just blew me away. I was aware of one bit of it, and I was going to bring it into probably the show tonight. But then I read the second bit, and I thought, I have got to bring this in this morning. It was just incredible. So, look, Peter Schmeichel, to me, is probably the best goalkeeper we've ever had at Manchester United. And it was, you know, that's not... In the modern game, I don't think he'd be very, very good. But he's certainly a United great when it comes down to goalkeepers. I couldn't believe. Sorry, I've just got something playing in the background there. I couldn't believe what I read about what Peter Schmeichel said after the game against Liverpool. Right, there's two crackers here. This is the first one. Basically, he sat next to Sir Alex Ferguson and he said, I just felt so sad for Sir Alex Ferguson because for all he's done for this football club, sitting there watching that, it's just so sad. Watching Man United, the club that he's built, the things that he's done over the years, you know, it was just so sad. And I thought Schmeichel was actually going to start crying about it. And I thought, you know what? There's overreactions. Schmeichel, is he looking for a job on Hollyoaks? Because I was like, mate, at what point would you be crying about Man United losing to Liverpool on Sunday? I mean, if you didn't think that that was a possibility, a distinct possibility, where have you been for the last 6 years? Liverpool rocking up to Old Trafford and beating us is not a shock. It is not a surprise. And it's not the same as the vet turning up and saying there's nothing we can do with your hamster. You know, it was literally not obvious. I thought Man United might win. But I just thought, you know what? What is he doing? Is he trying to understand the world of TikTok and how he's going to go viral and he's trying to come out with something? You know, is Schmeichel trying to get down with the Ute or something? Because I was just like, what shit are you talking here? Because it stinks. I feel sorry for Sir Alex. I was sat there. It was almost, you know, he's built this football club and he's got to watch that. We've literally been beaten more than that by Liverpool at Old Trafford a couple of years ago. Like, it's not the first time that's happened, Peter. It happens a lot. And also, what's your point? We get beat 3-0 by Liverpool. It's very, very disappointing. There's context to it. There's definitely context. We don't have a midfielder at the moment. We don't have a left back at the moment. There's a lot of new signings. It's the start of the season. All the excuses that are out there. It's unacceptable, but of course it's not a surprise and it's not going to make anybody sit and cry. And I felt like, you know, I thought, hold on a minute. Sir Alex Ferguson was there when the Glazers brought the football club and didn't walk away. He didn't walk away for 20 years. He's still there. So, Sir Alex Ferguson's on the verge of tears, according to Schmeichel, because we're losing 3-0 to Liverpool. And yet, he's sat there with the Glazers for 20 years. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson is the greatest manager there's ever been. And to many of us, he's our footballing granddad, you know, or dad. You know, when I was growing up, he was on the telly all the time. And obviously he loves Manchester United and is an absolute legend. But what is Schmeichel talking about? Absolute shit. And is he doing it to try and heap more pressure onto Ten Hag? I don't know, but I just found it weird. it was almost like he was saying, this is the lowest point of Man United's history. Sir Alex Ferguson's built this football club and he has to sit and watch the club be dismantled in front of his eyes. And I'm like, it's a football match against Liverpool, who've been better than us for years and beat us 3-0. And you're saying that the guy that built Man United is on the verge of tears because of that, and yet he sat there next to the Glazers for 20 years and watched them destroy the football club, let Old Trafford rot, let his legacy just disappear completely. But it's a 3-0 loss to Liverpool that's going to finally put him over the edge. I mean, if he's crying about that, he'd have drowned in tears about the last 20 years. So I think a little bit of context again. I think people get a little bit overreactionary that, you know, it's the worst thing in the world to lose to Liverpool. And for Sir Alex Ferguson to have to watch that, it's like, you know, it's torture. There's a lot worse been going on for 20 years that Sir Alex Ferguson has had to witness on a daily basis. So I thought that was a bit of an overreaction from Schmeichel. But the best one for me was when he said this. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Ethan Wheatley's on the bench, and I don't understand why he's not playing. He's scored a load of goals in the youth football. I rest my case, Your Honour. This is why ex-footballers should be lauded, respected, and championed for what they did on the pitch. But what their mouth spews when they retire is probably about as useful as a goat in a field. I mean, what the fuck is Peter Schmeichel talking about? I don't understand why Ten Hag's not using Ethan Wheatley. He scored a load of goals in the youth setup. And you just sort of go, what are you talking about, mate? What are you talking about? This is why you haven't got a job in football. What are you talking about? Look, hopefully Ethan Wheatley can have a very good career in football. But at no point did I see anybody in the watch-along chat or at any point in my brain did I go, what the hell is Ten Hag doing? What the hell is he doing? He's an absolute prat. Why has he not brought Wheatley on? And yet you've got Peter Schmeichel talking about Sir Alex Ferguson crying and why is Ethan Wheatley not being brought on? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. I thought it was a major risk to bring Toby Collier on and he came out of it pretty well. You can't be throwing in kids to solve men's problems. These kids need to come into the team and be protected by the senior players and developed. It's what happened with the class of 92. And Peter Schmeichel was one of those senior players that was there for the class of 92. But we can't be throwing in these kids and saying, why aren't they playing? So absolutely incredible. And of course, Michael Owen was at it again. I mean, Michael Owen, the guy who's greyer than a bloody tin of paint, who constantly lives up Howard Webb's arse and just literally is terrified of him and won't see anything opposite about the PGMOL. For some reason, Michael Owens found an opinion. Apparently he was on a walk and he just saw it in the grass and he's found this opinion that Ten Hag needs to be sacked and he's been on about it for ages. And he was on about it again that Man United must sack Ten Hag immediately. It's the only way they're going to improve. And some of you might agree with that. But there is a rich repertoire and history of Michael Owen talking absolute nonsense. And if you want a more recent one, when Liverpool appointed Arne Slot, it was his prediction that Liverpool would end up in the same position as when Man United appointed David Moyes. And I don't think I never heard anybody other than him use the words Arne Slot, David Moyes, and Liverpool will end up like Manchester United. So I would be very scared if Michael Owen was the champion of any movement I was behind. It's just bad luck if you are a Ten Hag outer, because I'm sure you've got your reasons. But Michael Owen being one of those reasons, I hope is not what you have in your repertoire. And I'm sure you don't. That stat, we have a minus goal difference last 57 games, says Robert McCormack. I'm not surprised, Robert. I'm not surprised. I mean, even if you take the first 3 games of the season, we should have lost to Liverpool, but we should have scored at least 2 ourselves. So that goal difference could have come down a little bit. Let's say, you know, we could have won that game. I think if Xerxes scores his chances, which he should have done, that game's probably 4-2. I think Liverpool had another goal in them. So goal difference would be -2 instead of -3. I think against Brighton, we shouldn't have lost that game. So it would still be, I would have said we at least should have got a draw against Brighton. So we'd be -2 instead of -4. And then obviously against Fulham, I think we should have scored at least another 2. So we'd have a level goal difference instead. What's our goal difference at the moment? -3. So already in 3 games, we're averaging a goal a game negatively more than we should do, because we should have scored more against Fulham. We shouldn't have lost to Brighton, and we should have scored more against Liverpool. But coulda, shoulda, woulda, Nozza, yeah. I think it will improve. I think defensively we will get better. If he keeps picking Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez and Dalot, we will get better. There's a lot of pressure on Agate, and I think if we keep creating the chances, we can't keep missing them. So I'm not... Look, I don't really see the point in assessing last season compared to this season is my bigger point here, Robert. I don't see the point in it. I think really we've got to look at the first 3 games, and then we've got to look at the next 4 games. I'm not comparing last season, and in a way we've got to stop talking about the FA Cup final as well. It was a very, very good win, and it was a very, very good performance, but a lot of those players are not part of this project. We've got very different assistant coaches as well. So I think we've got to stop looking at the last 57 games, or, we've got to assess this season. Not in the sense that it's a fresh start for Ten Hag, it's year 3. But I think when you're looking at high lines and you're looking at goals conceded and you're looking at goals scored and chances created, and it's got to be about this season. And obviously we've lost 2 of our first 3, so it's not very good at the moment. Hi Mark, hoping to see the team gel with time. I think we need another 4 or 5 games to get where we are with all the changes. Fingers crossed, says Kieran. Stick says, especially goalkeepers, they should only talk about goalkeeping. And so Galatasaray can afford Osimhen, but not Casemiro, says Tom. Yeah, basically, Tom, I don't know how your brain works, but if you walk down to Tesco with a tenner and you spend your tenner on whatever you want to buy, and then you want to buy something else, you don't have any money left. So you basically answered your own. So Galatasaray have spent a lot of their money on Osimhen. They won't have a lot of money left for Casemiro. Look, mate, go back to it and listen to it. I'm not talking about that again. If you want to go and watch another channel or read another website about Man United being in for Casemiro because you want to believe a load of shit, then please do. But we've covered that. It's not true. It's filler information, and it's complete and utter horse shit. And I don't know why people are talking about it. Centre midfield is a tough position for an 18-year-old, says Sticks. Adrenaline would have got him through the first year. He needs to be managed this year. Well, we spoke about it yesterday, didn't we? I think maybe you could go a little bit more compact with Agate and Casemiro, and then Bruno ahead, and have Mainu as a sub getting a bit of a rest. Eric Ten Hag's biggest problem is... Yeah, I've done that one from Jay. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in this morning. Really, really appreciate that. And there was something I was going to say which I've completely forgotten about now. But yeah, look, we're in a bad position. There's not a lot of good news out there at the moment. I think people are starting to calm down a little bit from Sunday, but there's a hell of a lot of work to do. And it won't be a quick fix. And I think the news that Luke Shaw's not going to be back fit for Southampton is a major blow. And, you know, I would still say that Ten Hag is going to be the master of his own destiny, which in some ways is a good thing, but there's still a lot of problems at that football club that we're never going to get solved in a summer. And it might not get solved after this international break. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Smash a like on the video, and I will speak to you later.